Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So in this video we'll be discussing about multiple sequence alignment, counting mutation, log and odds, and differences between PAM and BLOSSOM. So talking about the first written topic, which is MSA or multiple sequence alignment. So there are some of the technology methods that are involved for counting multiple sequence alignment. So such as there are neighbor joining, maximum Parsoni method, and lots many to find sequences or to find optimal score using multiple alignments. So there, as you can see, there are number of queries, of lots of queries, and lot many sequences with lot many base pairs. So with the help of neighbor joining or maximum parsimony methods, there are making of phylogenetic tree. It is easy to sequence multiple alignments. So there are a number of methods that can be used, and it is much more complex than pairwise alignments. Alright, so moving on with this. Also, I'll be explaining about MSA in one of my videos. So I'll be discussing about all sorts of methods used for aligning multiple sequences together. Also, so talking about how do we count the mutation, which is our second topic for the day. So assume any sequences could be the ancestral one. So assuming any of them could be the root sequence, or the ancestral one. So taking this sequence as the ancestral one. Alright, so let's take this sequence same as given on the given on your right. So let's take the sequence. So it's written that if the first sequence was the ancestor, then it mutated to W twice and to N once and conserve G 3 times. Alright, so it's saying that let's say this is the ancestral sequence. So if we take this sequence, alright, so if the first sequence was the ancestor, then it mutated to W twice. Alright, this W, and to N once, and it conserves G 3 times. So the G was G itself. So G did not mutate to anything else, but the other things mutated. So I'll explain you step by step. I have created such slides that you can understand now clearly. So how can we count the mutation? So let's just take the ancestral sequence. Let's just take the sequence. All right. So move this. So basically, if we in the previous case we picked G as the ancestor. Now in case if we could pick W as the ancestor. So taking W as the ancestor here, as you can see, so W was the ancestor, then it mutated to G 4 times, as you can see. So 1 2 3 4, all right, and to N 1 times, and was conserved once. All right, so if as you can see, there is one more W, so it was conserved once, and it mutated to G 4 times, as there are 4 Gs, and it has one N. Alright, so that was in the previous case. Also we took G as the ancestor one. Alright, so in the previous case we took G as the ancestor, and this we took W as the ancestor, and we'll just check with that particular base pair with others, that how many have been mutated and how many have been retained. Alright, so in case of W, it mutated to G 4 times. Alright, one time for N, it mutated to N once, and it retained once. It was retained or conserved once. As you can see, one W is already there, so it was conserved to W once. Alright, so this in case if we take N as the ancestor, so it would be the in that case it would be that it mutated to G 4 times, as you can see 4G, and then it mutated to W twice, and nothing was conserved. As you can see, there are no other N's present here. Alright, so this is how we take any of these. Are just pick and throw things, or just we need to just pick any of these sequences or any of the base pairs and compare with others. Alright, so moving on with this. So talking about the substitution matrices are symmetrical. Alright, so talking about substitution matrices, this is a very important point, talking about how while counting mutations. Alright, so since we don't know which sequence came first. So yeah, definitely there are lots many sequences, so we don't know which sequence came first, so we don't know whether this is the alignment or whether this is the alignment. All right, whether G or W or W or G is correct. Okay, so we count this as one mutation of each type. All right, so we count as a mutation for one for each type. All right, so in this case, G to W and W to G, in the end, in a 20 to 20 matrix will have the same number of elements ij and ji. Definitely will have the same number of elements because the number of mutations are the same, and that is why we only show the upper triangle. Okay, so in the case while making mutations, so we just show the upper triangle this side or the other side. As you can know, as you can see, this side, this side or this side, not both, only this side, because the alignment patterns are the same, so the mutation is the same, so we'll get the same number for both the elements such as W or G. All right, so moving on with this, so basically it's symmetrical, it's proof that. So let's just take this to how to count mutations. All right, so we assume the ancestor is one of the observed amino acids, but we don't know which, so we'll try them all. So let's take G as the ancestor in now first case. This is the first case. All right, so let's take G as the ancestral, and this is the symmetrical matrix that we made to make you understand that how it is symmetrical and how can we count mutations. All right, so let's take G as the ancestor. All right, so as we know, as you can see, there are three different alphabets, as you can see, without repetitions. All right, so we have G, so there are two G, so let's take one G from here. We have two W, so let's take one W. We have N as well, so let's take N, and there are all more two G's, so we have already taken G once, so we don't need to take G again. So accordingly we take the alphabets or the amino acids which are present once. All right, so which are present in the sequence, will take one of each of them. All right, so this is how we constructed the matrix, as you can see. So we have G, N and W. In the same way, on the x-axis also we have G, N and W. All right, so we have G and W. Same here, we have G and W. So now how do we make the triangle? All right, so this is now where the catch comes. So we now have to understand how it comes. So how we get 3 here, how we get 2 here, how we get 1 here, 2 here. All right, so G was written, as you can see, if we take G here as the ancestor. All right, so G was written how many times? As you can see, there are 1, 2 and 3. As you can see, 3. So we have written G to G, G to G, we have 3. All right, so that's done. All right, so G to G we have 3 retained ones. All right, so coming to now G to N. All right, so this is G to N, so we have 1, so we have 1 in our this thing in our, we have 1 in our sequences already, so we take 1. All right, let's in the previous case, while G to G, so we consider the first G as the ancestor, and leaving the first G, let's see how many G's are more there comparing G to G. All right, so in the same way, in the case for G to N, we have 1 N here, right? So we wrote 1. And case for G to W, how many W's do we have? We have 2 W's, so we have 2. So this was the case when we took the first element or the first letter as the ancestor. All right, so this is how we'll create things this way. All right, so if we took G as ancestor, so we can calculate this. We don't have to go here, we don't have to fill these spaces in the first place, so we can just do it from the first, as we took G as the thing. So G to G is this, G to N is this, G to W is this, so we are able to fulfill the matrix this way only. All right, so moving on with this, so let's take another possible ancestor. So we took the first G as the ancestor in my first case, so we just we already counted the first G in the first case, right? So we are removing the first ancestor now, and now we are counting from the next character so that we can get the mutations perfectly. So we are removing the first character, as we already took that as an ancestor, so we are taking the next element now as the ancestor. So this is the next possible ancestor that we are taking. All right, so we already counted this residue against all, so it will be blank out. So we basically counted this first element as the counted against all others, so we have left it blank. So we have started it from the next element by taking it as an ancestor. So in this case we took again G. It was again there were two G's from the front, right? So we took the second element, which was again G. So comparing G with G, we have more 2 G's leaving the ancestor, so we wrote here 2. And comparing from G to N, we have 1 N, so we wrote N here. And same with W, so we have 2 W's here. Alright, so this way we'll fill this thing. So in this third case, now this G will get blank out, or will get vanished, or will just put nothing in it. Then in the next case we'll have W as the ancestor, right? As you can see, we have W in this case, right? So let's check it out. So this W, let's say this is the ancestor. Obviously we'll consider this as the ancestor. So in this case we have filled it this way, because that was the only option we had. So let's take W to W, as you can see down here. So we have WW, we have just one W leaving the ancestor, right? So we have one here, right? So now we have W. Now how will we compare others? How will we compare W to N and W to G? So we have from here we can do this. So from W to N, it's the same way, right? Upper or lower is the same way. So you can consider W and N here. So we have one N only. So we wrote one N only, as you can see. And W to G, we have two more G's. So W to G. As you can see, we have two G's, so we have wrote 2. Again, in the next case, the second W will become the ancestor and the first W will blank out. Right? So in this case, the same way, we have no W's, so we have written 0 W's. While in the case of N, we have just one N, and for the G, we have two G's again. All right. And the next case, we'll have N as the ancestor, and this W will get blank. All right. So in this N, we have so N to N we have 0. That is very obvious. We don't have any other N except the ancestor. This is the 0 thing. All right. Also N to W is also 0. So we don't have any W's here. Also we can calculate this like N to N. We have this. We have calculated this way. So that was the only possible thing we can do. So N to W is this way. Also N to G. So how will we do N to G? So this way we can do. So this is the same way. So N to G. So we just have to mark the possible number of alphabets occurring. So this can be this way also, N to G. Alright, so this was the only possible that could occur. So there are no G's. N to G, so there are no G's here. So we are doing it this way. N to G, so there are 2. This is 0, this is 0. Alright. So coming to the next point, so the next alphabet becomes the ancestor and the previous one gets blanked. Alright, so again to G we have 1 leaving the ancestor. So this is 1, again this is 0, this is 0, so we don't have anything. Again we have no last count for the list, so this is the only thing we left. So we have nothing more sequence, so everything will be 0 0 0. Alright, leaving the ancestor we have nothing left. So this was how we count mutations in our sequence. Alright, so this is how we count a sequence in this case. So summing the sequence substitution constant. So basically we just drew so many graphs, as you can see, like this graph. So we'll just count all of the numbers present here, everywhere. So we'll just count the number of possible alignments or number of this number that we got. So we'll just add all the numbers and just place it here in a proper one graph by adding all the numbers. All right, so now we do this for every column in every sequence, multiple sequence alignment. So after counting all of these 6 4 8 0 2 1, we have 21. All right, so this was the mutation counts. All right, so mutation count or the substitution counts we had. All right, so moving on, let's talk about the log odds. So substitution and many other things in bioinformatics are expressed as likelihood ratios or odd ratios of the observed data over the expected values. Definitely. So likelihood and odd values are synonyms for probability. So this is pretty much the word for probability. So we can tell it as a probable thing. So log or ratios are definitely known as probability, as you know now. So log odds is the log usually base 2 of the odds ratio. All right, so log odd ratio is given by log base 2 into observed value by expected value. All right, so this is how we calculate the log odd values for substitution on mutation counts. All right, so this is something that is probable and that may change, that may have like little bit changes time to time. All right, so this was all the log odds thing. All right, so how do we get the log odds from the counts? All right, so let's say we have this thing, what do you call this PG value, which is 4 by 7, which comes out to be 0.57, and the observed probability of G to G is this is how we calculated it, this is 0.29. all right, and the expected probability is this much. All right, so this comes out to be log odd ratio is this one, observed value by expected value. So this is 0.29 by 0.33 into log base 2. all right, this is how it comes basically. So you can get tons of example of log odd ratios, so this is a very easy topic. All right, so also LOD, if log odd ratio is less than 0, then the mutation is less likely than expected. By chance, if it is more than 0, it is more likely. All right, so in this case it's more likely, it is less likely than expected. All right, so let's talk about the last thing, which is the differences between the PAM and BLOSUM. So talking about PAM, and under PAM we have PAM matrices, which are based on global alignments of closely related proteins. All right, so based on global alignments, which are very important points, whereas BLOSUM is based on local alignments. All right, this is based on global, this is based on global alignment, local alignment. Also, the PAM1 is the matrix calculated from comparison of sequences with no more than 1% divergence. So PAM1 means 1% of residues or bases have changed over the 20 amino acids. All right, so other PAM matrices are extrapolated from PAM1 using an assumed Markov model chain. All right, so this is based on the Markov, using an assumed Markov model chain. So talking about BLOSUM 62 is the person identity that shows is a matrix calculated from comparison of sequences with approx 62% identity. All right, so this basically shows the percent identity. This shows the mutation rate. All right, and also all BLOSUM matrices are based on observed alignments, and they are not extrapolated from comparisons of closely related proteins. All right, so this is basically on observed alignments. On also BLOSUM 62 is the default matrix in BLAST, okay, which is the database search program. It is tailored for comparison of moderately distant proteins, and also alignment of distant relatives may be more accurate with a different matrix. So this is a pretty common point. So these are some of the differences that I found out from PAM and BLOSUM, which may be pretty much helpful for you. So do give it a read. So that's it from my video. Stay tuned for more, and thank you for watching this video.